Big on appreciation. Start small if you need to, but put it out there.
Excellent. Yes.
Now, what are some of the intimacy secrets to keep the relationship fresh as a man reaches perhaps his 70s, 80s, and 90s, even beyond?
There are so many techniques that I teach. I mean, from setting the stage in a tantric environment where you have, battery-operated candles if it's not safe to have real candles, and you've got your song list, you've got your playlist on your iPod or on your computer or on your phone. You make sure the lighting is going to make him look great. And if you're about his age, then it's going to make you both look great. You do whatever you can. And flowers, a perfect, magical, loving environment. Every time you're together is an opportunity to express love for each other. And every time you're together is an opportunity to inspire him to be more loving with you and also, therefore, be more passionate with you. Because if you're a woman, you know that what we respond to is heart-centered action. We don't respond to just the physical act alone in most cases, unless you've really, really, really been missing him for a long time. But otherwise, you are going to respond so much more fully. Your body's going to respond so much more fully if there is an emotional intimacy. And anything you can do to encourage him in a loving and motivating way rather than an assertive way is going to be great.
Very nice. Very stimulating to even hear about, Susan. Now, what are some of your suggestions to keep the sex actually thrilling for both of you?
Well, in a non-sexy way, my first husband used to say that I would go into my closet and he didn't know who I would come out as. Because I would have, and I mean for going out on the street clothes, not sex clothes, believe me, for sure not. So I would come out and I'd be in a, more of a hippie mood. This was the 70s. Or I would come out and I would be in an elegant, glamorous mood. Or I would come out and I would be in a, we're going to a business meeting mode. And he really enjoyed that. He was very aesthetic and he loved the fact that I had all these different clothes and I loved putting them together. And I was in a different mood too. But here's the point. This is what you have to be able to do sexually. You have to be able to be different personalities, different moods, different action plans, different techniques, different technologies. And that means you need to read up on who this guy is that you're with, what's interesting to him, what is exciting to him. Talk about different things and find out, just by listening, what is he responding to? Is this a garter belt guy or not? Is this a Merry Widow guy or not? Is this a I don't care, just get naked quickly guy? Fine, whatever it is. Is this a fantasy guy? He likes to have a whole fantasy scenario, and you better pay attention to the kind of fantasy scenario he suggested. At least in the beginning, maybe later on you'll come up with some of your own. But in the beginning, if you want to keep a 60-year-old or 70 or 80-year-old guy interested, now you're going to be, let's get on his page for a change. And it works. It will make a big difference. I'm telling you how many of my clients report back to me amazing, amazing results.
So a bit of variety and really knowing your partner is the secret.
It is the secret. And, the trick about variety is if you don't want him to seek variety from other partners. That's the bottom line. So I remember when I was in the fashion industry, I had a sample room that I used, and husband and wife owned it, and they would make my samples, which then I'd show to the stores, and we would get orders. So they were great people, and I just loved them, and they loved me, and we had a wonderful time together. And one day I just said to the husband, I said, my God, you have a sample room. Oh my God, and you guys have been married for like 35 years. And thinking I had invented the wheel, I said to him, have you ever made costumes for each other? And he calls his wife over and he says to her, Susan wants to know if we've ever made costumes for sex play at home. He said, Susan, we've made every costume for every sex play at home.
Okay.
Everyone. And that's part of why he said they were happily married, and all these years later they were still happy to be together. You know, because they were a true partnership. A true partnership is what's going to keep somebody coming back, and it's going to be what keeps you coming back. And a true partnership means with and without your clothes on. Because sex has all these health benefits, but more than that, sex makes you happy to be alive, as does love.
Oh my. Now, another type of little foreplay suggestion would be role playing in other areas. Could you give us an example?
Well, sure, it all depends on what's interesting. And also, a lot of it has to do with what do you look like? You know, what do you look like? What kind of a physique do you have? If you're talking about you being the only one to dress up, well, we know the costumes, you know. Streetwalker in Paris, you know, Irma la Douce, you know, that kind of stuff. Nurse, you know, good night nurse, you know, all these things. These are standards. You know, burlesque made these things famous 100 years ago. And I don't think men's taste in sexy and raunchy ideas for women has changed in maybe 1,000 years. So the same kind of stuff that porn queens were doing in the 70s really probably still work today. Well, give it a shot, see if it does. And, you know, there are some guys that were crazy about Marilyn, and some guys that were crazy about Jane Mansfield, and some guys who were crazy about other women. Just avoid a guy who was really crazy and thought that Audrey Hepburn was sexy, then you're in trouble. You know, but if you're going after somebody who has a type and you're that type, you know, maybe it's the redhead on Mad Men. That's a great, great role, isn't it? All you need is a red wig and, you know, a big enough bra size, and you're done.
Good information. So how do you speak about your past to an older man if he asks you? And to really be honest with him without him becoming, let's say, triggered or jealous.
Well, obviously, Bob, you and I have lived. We've had a life. You've been married and I've been married. So you're asking me a question about somebody that I dated, and so if you'd really like me to be honest, I'm happy to do it. It's just that I don't really want to bring someone else into our time together. So it just seems to me that we have 1,000 things we could talk about, but if you want to talk about it, of course, you can ask me anything at any time. I'm happy to tell you. Now, a lot of guys are going to take a hint that, oh, that might make me jealous. I don't want to go there. You know? And I have to say that it's been my experience that if a man really is not jealous, he really doesn't care very much about you, because he's not identifying you as his home. When a man finds you to be that woman who makes him happy, that woman who loves him, that woman who he loves, that woman without which his life would not be so wonderful, when he sees you as that, my experience, not only for myself but with all my clients, has been they don't want to talk about who you dated last year. They don't want to talk about the best sex you've ever had. They don't want to talk about your favorite position when you were married. Not at all. Not ever. And so you want to do that empathy conversation that I just demonstrated, because you don't want somebody to get weird on you. And, you know, I could just say as a woman, I do not enjoy hearing about a man's experiences with other women unless it's important. If he says, I really need to tell you this because this was great, this was my favorite thing, and I would like us to do it, then I'm going to listen. I'm all ears. And of course, being as competitive as I am, I'm going to make sure it's better with me than it ever was, right? Yeah. That's a given. It's a no-brainer. But you have to be very careful, because it's very easy for women. Now you're in bed with somebody, you're in a very vulnerable position. Remember, this person is going to put a body part inside of you. So this is the most vulnerable you're ever going to feel in your life if you're paying attention, if you're really conscious. So don't have these conversations about the kind of sex you liked with somebody else when you're in bed. It's best to do it when you're not in bed, when you have your clothes on, and when you're not going to feel triggered. So really take my advice on this, please.
Yeah, let's go for a fresh start. I kind of like that idea. Well, thank you, Susan. I know that now that our audience have seen that you can make the difference in creating and maintaining a fabulous relationship with a man who is in his 60s, 70s, and way, way beyond. Please contact Susan and enjoy her one free offer of a telephone session so she can actually walk you through the road to intimacy and peace that you can create for yourself. And how rewarding will this
Now,
be?
I'm just confused. We have 2 more minutes?
Yes, we do. Is there
Okay, so we
something
need
more
to-
that we can
we need
talk
to, don't we?
about?
Yeah, sure.
Good.
Let's see, what haven't we covered? What haven't we covered? Well, you know, the thing that you want to think about if you're dating an older man is how to keep him healthy. Not just sexually healthy. You have to attend to his health. If he's older than you by 5 seconds, you have to attend to his health because of the disparity between life expectancy. But if you're younger than he is and he's older, my God, you want him to stay healthy, not just alive. So if you've watched any of Gigi's shows that I was on about Howard Wills, who eliminates disease, I don't have asthma, I don't have allergies most of the time. Howard Wills did that all for me. If you want to talk about all the supplements that I take, if you want to talk about Dr. Patricia Fitzgerald and ovitaminpro.com, Mary Schlanger, you want to talk about the products I take from Prohoba that are made from organic flower pollen that's hypoallergenic, I would not be alive today if I weren't busy with all these things. If you're somebody who has a weakened immune system, you want to know about Tom Palladino, the elimination of viruses and funguses and, bacteria. It's incredible, protozoa. It's incredible what Tom has done for me too. So, you're looking at me now and it's, oh, she looks pretty healthy. Oh, she looks pretty great. Oh, she looks this, she looks that. Well, yeah, I do, thanks to all of the things that I just mentioned. It's really important to know that. I am the after photo. But if you want to look at the before photo, it was pretty, it was attractive, but God, I am a million times more alive now. A million times more alive. And that's what you need. Because what is the key to having sex and intimacy and love with an older man is making it thrilling for him. Because he's got less testosterone now, he needs you to overcompensate by being thrilling. What can you do to be thrilling? Or better yet, are you thrilling? How do you become thrilling? Are you into him?
I'm glad that we got this information out. You have so much to offer people from all of your years of really going through a lot yourself.